discourse and interaction, linguistic resources, and delivery and intelligibility, right? On the other hand, David got a 4, a 3, and a 4. Still good. He still passed, I'm pretty sure. But he wasn't as good as Stefanos, right? We saw here the reasons why. Stefanos, if we look at the report, remember that you're going to have to write something similar, probably not as extensive, as this for your classmates, but definitely you will have to write something that justifies the grade that you assign them, And this is the type of vocabulary that you will need to use. For example, it says you have the introduction, explaining, and recommending, consensus reaching. We have this, for Stefanos. It says the test taker is able to explain the provided information concisely and accurately with little to no reliance on the written material. His explanations are well organized and coherent and require minimal prompting, right? So that's important to take into consideration when you're grading your classmates. If they do all that, they probably deserve a 5. He presents decisions persuasively and appropriately and regularly paraphrases and elaborates to explain or clarify, right? Elaborating is important. Right, some examples of language there, and he is interactive. He's an interactive participant throughout and consistently contributes to the conversation, right? That's also important. So you have to kind of like be in control of the conversation with the other test takers. You have to participate actively. You cannot take, second place to the other people there. It's not really a competition, but you do have to be present in the conversation, right? When it comes to linguistic resources, there's a broad range of lexical resources, right? He can flexibly use collocations, and they are used accurately and appropriately, right? Also native-like expressions right here, a wide variety of basic and complex grammatical structures effectively used, right? And the test taker occasionally uses incorrect collocations or grammar, but meaning is not impeded by these, right? So, it's not like it has to be perfect to get a 5, There you can make some mistakes, and still you would get a 5 in this exam, right? When it comes to delivery and intelligibility, he definitely has an accent, and it's noticeable. You can tell, English is not his first language, but he speaks clearly and fluently, right? No listening effort is needed. And while his rate of speech is fast, he's able to effectively use rhythm and stress to add meaning. Rate of speech and prosodic features like intonation, stress, and such, and pause and emphasis to add meaning. So you have to take that into consideration. Right. On the other hand, we have David. Right. You should be familiar with the type of language that is used to grade test takers, because you're gonna have, I repeat, you're gonna have to write something similar for your classmates. You're gonna be evaluating them. You're gonna be the examiners for the ECP, right? In this case, it's plain information provided with some reliance. That some reliance, is different from Stefanos. Stefanos was little to no reliance. There's some reliance on the written material. There's good use of transitional markers. Remember that you have to focus on what your classmates do well, more than on what they do incorrectly, right? Focus on what your students do well. That's the most important part, I think, right? His explanations are well organized and coherent, right? And the test taker usually contributes appropriately to the development of the interaction, right? Usually, not all the time, but usually contributes appropriately to the interaction. And his recommendations are almost always supported with explanations, almost always. not always, but almost always, right? Because of that, he gets a 4, right? When it comes to linguistic resources, the test taker's range of vocabulary and grammatical structures extends beyond what has been provided, right? He uses words that are not on the written paper. You have to pay attention to that. If you're the person you are evaluating, he's just limiting himself or herself to the vocabulary that you gave them on the prompts, then you don't really know if they are able to do anything else beyond that, right? Idiomatic expressions and collocations are also present, but with some inaccuracies, right? And his grammatical accuracy declines in stage 3 due to its difficulty. But communication is not hindered, right? Because of all of that, he gets a 3 on that. And finally, delivery and intelligibility. The test taker is frequently fluent, and minimal effort is needed from the listener due to some pronunciation errors, right? There's some effort, but it's minimal. Also, he's able to use prosodic features in his speech to add meaning. And as the test progresses, though, his fluency slightly declines, but this doesn't affect communication, so he gets it. So we saw that, right? And we saw what we got, what they got, right? You're gonna have to present something like this. Remember, this is what you have to present. You have to present the results, right? Your partner's scores, something similar to this, right? And the justification for those scores, something similar to this, maybe not in such detail, but definitely you should kind of like give me a justification for the scores you gave them, right? Now we're going to watch this part right here. We're gonna watch the second part of the video, stages 4 and 5. So I would like you to take a piece of paper and kind of like take notes of what they're doing, on how they're doing, right? To analyze and see. And decide on a grade, right? So pay attention to what they do well. Remember that there are 3 criteria: discourse and interaction, linguistic resources, delivery, and intelligibility. So, 3 columns, for each candidate. And also, don't forget that this part are stages 4 and 5, presenting and convincing, and justifying and defending, right? So here, we're gonna watch this. Just give me 1 second to set everything up.
The option you have selected and 4 main reasons for choosing that option. You will each need to present 2 reasons and explain why those reasons are important. Your goal is to convince Sharon that the option you chose is the best choice. After your presentation, Sharon will ask you questions about your final decision. You can take 2 to 3 minutes to collaborate and plan which reasons you each will present. You must use English during this planning stage, and you are allowed to look at each other's papers now. Any questions?
No question.
Okay.
So here we go. We do have a lot of posters to come to talk. Maybe for now we disregard this.
I would like to check the point of disadvantage with this money.
Yeah.
Because it's make a real situation.
Yeah.
But as well, I would like to say the advantage. So I would say the only thing we can show is just the money. Mm-hmm. But your museums,
yeah,
the weather, I think is more important.
I think that the weather is definitely one of the points that we should mention. Perhaps, you know what though, maybe we shouldn't mention the flight yet.
I will
okay.
Explain this.
Excellent. Okay, so I will choose the warm weather. I think it's a very important thing to mention. And I think the most important thing to mention out of those, because we have to present 2 only, I think I'm going to go with the shopping mall. For this, I'm going to casually mention that
there's a new shopping mall
to do. Yeah.
Sounds
there's
good.
A lot of activities.
So
we do have these 2 activities as well, but we can,
Yeah, to make the main points.
Yeah.
Explain the main points. Yeah.
I would like to introduce you to Sharon, who is the school
Nice to
principal.
meet you.
Hello.
Nice.
I understand you've reached a decision and you are prepared to give me a recommendation.
Yes, we have. Yes, we
Okay.
have. So we decided to take our class trip to Orlando, Florida. And we have some very interesting advantages for this plan to present to you. I believe the most important of those for now is the very warm weather. I think everyone will be very excited to leave the very cold weather and for a change go to warm weather instead. We also have we have been provided with some very excellent opportunities to do there, which are golf lessons that we need to take, that we can take, trips that we can take. But I think that the one topic that I would separate from all those, from all the rest, because it's very interesting, is that the fact that we have a shopping mall exactly next to the hotel that we're going. So that's very interesting because people can also, apart from the activities, go to the shopping mall and do their own shopping with their friends and enjoy.
Although we have discounts to go to Disney World, there is a problem with the money, so with the budget to us, because we are young people, and I think it must be the disadvantage of this to go to this place in particular. But I see this more than an investment, more than spending. So I would say that the advantages are more important than the disadvantages to go to this place in particular.
Well, you've presented some very interesting reasons for your selection. So for the final stage, I just have a few questions I'd like to ask you. So you mentioned that the weather was going to be very nice, very warm. If the weather is very warm and humid, do you think that might be a problem? It might be uncomfortable. We might have a chance of rain. Do you have any concerns about that?
I personally don't have any concern of that because I think that even though the weather is warm, it's not warm to a level that may cause problems to students because to suffer from extreme heat or something. I think 31 degrees is still bearable and refreshing given the weather change.
Okay. You talked about some activities that would happen on the trip. Golf lessons, shopping mall. Why do you think the students might want to do these activities when we have Disney World so close by?
I think I would say for the diversity. So we are going to in group. So people want to do one thing, and people want to do other things. So I would say we need a leadership in this case. So we can choose the best choice for us. And with that is, so one particular group can go to the Disney World, people who like toys, roller coasters, and other people go to go shopping, as people go and buy maybe purses, shirts. So yes, we can
I
do
think
that.
this way, yeah, we maximize our chances of satisfying everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. One more question. With all these different activities, do you think it might be difficult to organize such a large group of teenagers, high school students?
I think that's a very valid point. This is a concern, but I think there's an excellent way to organize this effectively. The only thing that we need to care about is that make sure we know beforehand which students want to do which activity, and then perhaps having our trip with us a certain number of teachers that they can follow, each teacher follow a group to each activity so that they're safe as well, and they can monitor the situations should something go wrong.
Yeah, I think to reach an agreement, I would say that the teachers have to split the tasks. So one teacher has to make the point, to explain something we can do, and then to raise your hand as a way to get an agreement.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Your reasons will definitely be taken into consideration before a final decision is made. Okay. This is the end of the speaking test. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Give them a grade over 5, in each of these 3 criteria: discourse and interaction, linguistic resources, delivery, and intelligibility. And while you decide the grade you're assigning them, think of a justification. Why? Why are you giving them a 5, a 4, or a 3, or a 2, or a 1, right? Think about it for a couple of minutes. Area, and also why. Remember to justify it. I gave Stefanos 4 in the um, linguistic resources because of this, that, and that. So for this, you will have 8 minutes to discuss in groups the grades you assign to each of the test takers. Okay, so go ahead, 8 minutes on the clock. What score you assign to each of the test takers, right? So I'm gonna ask somebody, to tell me what they think. Let's see. Gabriela, are you there? Can you hear me? Gabriela? Internet problems, probably. What about I don't know. Let's see. Christian, what about you? Are you there?
Can you hear me, teacher?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you tell me, please, the score you gave Stefanos in each 3 of the criteria, and tell me also why? Just nothing too elaborate, but just justification for each.
Uh, with in each aspect, I get here 4, 4, 4.
4, 4, and 4. And why a 4 and not a 5? Why a 4 and not a 3?
I did the analysis like in general, and I think he did well, but he can improve, and also in some way he can help David during the activity.
Okay. So you think, so you deducted points because he wasn't interacting with David? Is that what you think?
Mm, yeah, it's like part of my analysis or like a reason why, but not completely.
Okay, fair enough. Christian, can you give me a number from 1 to 29, please?
10.
That'll be Ashley. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, so what about David? What score did you give him?
I assign him a 5, 4, 4.
A 5, a 4, and a 4. Why a 4?
Because I think he was not perfectly fluent. But I like his justification. his explanation.
Okay, so you think his justifications were good, but they could have been better, I guess, right?
Yeah, talking about linguistic resources and intelligibility.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you very much. Is anybody in the room that grossly disagrees with this course, that has a very different opinion, that would like to participate? So let's see how much they got, right? Stefanos got, in the discourse and interaction section, he got a 5. And then linguistic resources, he got a 5 as well. And when it comes to delivery and intelligibility, he also got a 5, right? But why? Well, let's look at this. According to the report, Stefanos, in the presenting and convincing, justifying and defending stages of the exam, he presents his decision concisely, right, and accurately. In stage 4, his recommendations are appropriate for the context and well supported. In stage 5, his response to the examiner's question is appropriate, and he's able to justify his position. Also, in stage 5, the test taker understands linguistic, social linguistic, and pragmatic information in order to engage in extended interaction when he recognizes the veiled challenge in the second examiner's question about the difficulty of organizing a large group, right? When it comes to the vocabulary is used accurately to convey finer shades of meaning. Collocations, right? Colloquial language and idiomatic expressions are frequent. The test taker often uses a wide variety of basic and complex grammatical structures, as well as collocations effectively, right? And even though there are minor errors in subject, verb agreement, and preposition use, they do not impede communication, right? When it comes to
John,
yes,
excuse me. I would like to say, no, I would like to ask you, what does prosodic mean?
prosodic
It's
features are, I think, Martha is probably gonna be able to answer that, but prosodic features means language characteristics, things like intonation, pitch, stress, and all of that, right? Remember that English relies on pitch and stress to change the meaning of a sentence. It's not the same to say that I don't know him, to say I don't know him, or I don't know him. You can change that. For if you say I didn't take the necklace, that's the neutral way of saying I didn't take the necklace. But you can say, I didn't take the necklace, or I didn't take the necklace. I didn't take the necklace. I didn't take the necklace. And that will change a little bit the meaning of the sentence. Now, the exact definition of prosodic, I guess I would have to go to the dictionary to give you an exact definition of prosodic, what prosodic means. It has to do with prosody or prosody, I guess, right? And that has to do with language. This study, particular system, no, that's not. Has to do with rhythm and intonation, right? Prosody is that? Yeah, prosody It's the rhythm and intonation of a language. You know, and English has a very particular rhythm and intonation. And depending how you use it, you can emphasize a certain information. You can convey a meaning. For example, if I say, you know, somebody says Juan is a really nice person, I say right. It's very different than saying right. You know, and just because I'm changing my intonation, I'm conveying a completely different message, right? So that's basically what prosodic features mean. You know, they mean intonation uh, uh, and rhythm, right? I mean, you've been studying with Martha, and you know, English is just more than just vowels and consonants. You know, it has to do a lot with the stress in the sentence and the elision and all of that, right? Does that answer your question, Paula?
Yes, teacher, thank you.
You're welcome, right? So that's something you have to also evaluate, right? 544. Okay, I'm looking at Gabriela's comments. 445 to Stephanos, 544 to David. Oh, we're gonna look at David for 10 minutes, right? So if your test taker speaks English in a monotone, you know, like English is not Japanese. You know, you cannot go like da, 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 da. English is not spoken in a monotone, right? There has to be ups and downs that are controlled by the speaker, right? So that's how English actually works, you know. And if you use that to emphasize information, to kind of like express your opinions, you know, that you have to count those toward, you know, a higher score, you know, because when it comes to pronunciation, you know, intelligibility and all that, it says language is fluent and articulate. He uses prosodic features such as slower speech and rate and more frequent pauses, you know, to shift style register, you know, appropriately and to accentuate his message, right? In stage 5, he uses speech rates, you know, speech rate like slowing down to articulate clearly, stress and intonation to aid the listener understanding, you know, etc. Right? So that's important to take into consideration. So that's why he got a 5, you know, in all of them, right? Now, when it comes to David, he got 4 in the discourse and interaction. He got 3 in linguistic resources, and he got a 4 in delivery and intelligibility, right? So here we are. And why did he get those scores? Well, according to this, you know, David, in the stages 4 and 5, he presents his opinion persuasively, and he usually, but not always, contributes to the interaction, you know. So because of that, he loses a point, I think, right? He justifies his position appropriately for the context by paraphrasing and elaborating, which is important, right? And he uses transitional phrases that contribute to the coherence of his speech. In stage 5, he appropriately answers the examiner's question and justifies his position. The test taker is aware of the listener and is almost always, he does phrase, almost always able to understand information to engage in extended interaction. Not always, but almost always. So he got a 4 there. Now, his lowest score comes to grammar and vocabulary, right? Because in this case, he uses a range of vocabulary and grammatical structures that extend beyond beyond what has been provided, right? He is using words that are not on the prompt, that are not on the paper he was given, you know. So he's going a little beyond that, and he uses a satisfactory range of vocabulary to convey his intended meaning, but nothing too impressive, right? Some collocations are present, but are not always correct, right? There are inaccuracies in vocabulary and grammar, but they do not interrupt the flow of communication. So remember, you don't have to have, you know, perfect grammar and vocabulary to get a high score. Stefanos made a couple of mistakes too, but not as frequently as David, I guess, right? And when it came to delivery and intelligibility, the test taker's language is frequently fluent, and his speech rate is consistent. His speech is articulate, and only minimal listener effort is needed, right? But there's some effort, minimal, but there it is effort. The test taker's fluency declines slightly with more challenging speech events during stage 5, but this does not affect the flow of discourse. The test taker occasionally uses prosodic features such as speech to aid the listener. Occasionally, not constantly. So, that also gives it a 4, right? So, this is something you will have to do as part of your assignment. You will have to present the score for the test takers. There will be 3 test takers because it's going to be in groups of 3. So you will have to present this for 3 people. Test taker 1, test taker 2, test taker 3 with their names, and divide it like that and score like that, right? And then you will have to also add to that score justification for each of the sections. And you will have, you can divide it because it's going to be like 3 people in each group. Each of you can grade. Obviously you have to agree on the grades, but the report can be written. Each of you can write an individual report. Obviously, with all the notes that you discuss, then you can take your time redacting it in the form of a paragraph or 2, right? So that's what you're supposed to do. Any questions or doubts so far? No, we're good. Okay. So tonight we're trying to get to familiarize ourselves with the test, from the point of view of the examiner. If you look at it from the point of view of the examiner, I think you will be more able to feel comfortable the day of the exam because you will know exactly what you are supposed to do. There will be nothing new, right? Now, this is the rubric. This is what getting a 5 means. Obviously, you have a little report, but this is what you have to compare it to, right? Your test takers will get a 5 in discourse and interaction if their production, they can produce independent, spontaneous speech, if they can contribute to extended interaction, and they have good listening comprehension. What does that mean? Well, they can explain concisely and accurately with little to no reliance on written material. You will check because if they are reading the prompts that you gave them, then that means they rely too much on the written material. They have to paraphrase and elaborate and maybe just look at the paper once in a while without really repeating what's on the paper, right? They have to provide coherent explanations without prompting or on all topics, coherent explanations without prompting. That means you don't have to ask any questions for them, or the other test taker doesn't have to ask any questions for them to produce this, right? They present their decisions persuasively and appropriately for varying contexts. They consistently contribute appropriately to development of interaction. They're very aware of their listener, they're very aware of the other person, they pay attention to their reactions, what they say. If they maybe hesitate, they make a face or they say something, The recommendations are appropriate and supported with explanations. Remember, you have to say, well, I think this is the best option, but why, right? You have to elaborate on that. You have to justify your position, regularly paraphrasing and elaborating to explain and or clarify. If you are going to repeat yourself, you cannot repeat the same words. You have to repeat the same idea in different words because maybe the other person is not understanding what you're trying to say. Communication breakdowns are rare, and he understands linguistics, sociolinguistic, and pragmatic information in order to engage in extended spontaneous interaction. So you see the other person. It's not about not only what they say, but also what they do not say, And if they hesitate, how they move their body, if they want to speak, because, oh, you wanted to say, so I interrupted you, sorry, you have to be aware of all of that. When it comes to linguistic resources, range and accuracy for grammar. He uses a wide variety of basic and complex grammatical structures accurately and effectively, and uses a range of grammatical structures that are pragmatically appropriate. Vocabulary, broad range vocabulary, collocations, colloquial language, thematic expressions, used accurately and appropriately. There are some slips of the tongue that may occur, right? That doesn't really count. You don't discount points for that. But they are all often self-corrected. That's a big plus when people self-correct. There was maybe they may be present throughout its course, but they do not impede interaction. And when it comes to delivery and intelligibility, right, they are fluent, articulate delivery, and often uses rate of speech and or persuasive features to add meaning, aid listener, and or to shift style register appropriately, right? Obviously, you will have to read this carefully. You will have to read this probably a couple of times to understand it very well, so you are able to score your classmates fairly, right? Obviously, there's a description for 4, which is a little different, very similar to 4, but with some changes. You have to know the subtle difference between 4 and 5, or maybe between 3 and 4, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, right? So you will have to, I guess, if you can print it, because this will be good material for you too when you eventually have to help people prepare for the ACPE, So here is the link to that particular rubric for the speaking exam, right? So you can download it and print it, and definitely you have to read it a couple of times, to make sure you understand it and you know the difference between a 4 and a 5, a 3 and a 4, a 2 and a 3, because it can be very, very subtle. Okay. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. So to sum up, right, what you're supposed to do is this. In groups of 3, which I believe you already have formed, I hope you have, you will have to design an ACP-like speaking test. We're going to see a few prompts in a minute. And you will have to administer this test to another group of 3 people. So you're going to take turns, being the test takers and being the examiners, right? As a group, you will grade their performance. As a group, you have to decide what is their score over 5 points in each of the 3 categories, right? We have 1 and 2 and 3 criteria, each of them over 5, for 3 people, 3 scores, for stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. So each person gets 6 different scores, a total of 18 different scores. You have to discuss that and agree on that grade. Then you can divide the work to redact the justification, the feedback. That you can divide the work among you 3. You will have not 3, but now it's 2 weeks to complete this task. You guys are due on December 12th, I believe, not 11. This is for the group. December 12th, if I'm right. That's 2 weeks from now, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that's what you're supposed to do. You have to create the exam, you have to administer, and you have to give them a score and write a little report. That is your assignment, right? That's where one of your grades is going to come from. And if you do everything, if you do everything you need to do, there's no reason not to get a 20. I created the exam, we created the prompts, we redacted, the instructions, we have the scores, we have the feedback, and of course the video. You have to record the exam, just like we saw with David and and Stefan's, right? Of course, this will be done over Zoom or Google Meet, right? And you will have to send me a link to that video. Just imagine like you're preparing your report to send to the ACP. You are ACP examiners, and you have to prepare everything the Michigan Assessment Organization needs in order to assign a grade to these people and decide if they get their certificate or not, right? So that's the idea. And the other grade will come from the grade you get from your oral exam, right? That would be the grade that people will assign you. So we'll see. Okay, any questions here? Okay, so let's take a look at what you're supposed to read. Right, you're supposed to, we said here, you have to design an ECP-like speaking test. So let's take a look at some of those prompts, right? Talking about the test, remember that there are like 5 stages, right? The ACP speaking test measures test takers at the C2 level of English of the Common European Framework of Reference, CEFR. By now, you're probably very familiar with that term. The test takes about 25 to 35 minutes. It may take a little longer because you guys will be in groups of 3, right? Which rarely happens, but may happen in real life. And it's comprised of 5 different stages designed to give test takers the opportunity to interact with each other and with 2 examiners in order to accomplish the task. In this case, there will be 3 examiners. 2 of you will participate, and the third one will be just, observing and taking notes, right? Okay, stage 1, as we have seen, is the introduction, the warm-up. Stage 2 is you allow test takers to learn about the decision they will make and get familiar with the options. That's where people read the prompts you create. You have to create some prompts. They're going to read them. You're going to give them a minute or 2 to read them, and then they have to take turns presenting these options. This is where you have to elaborate and not limit yourself to just reading the prompt, right? Stage 3 is coming to an agreement on one single option to present to the examiner, which is going to play the role of a higher executive or something like that. You will have to give your people, a few minutes to plan the presentation, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, because there's going to be 3 people, so they decide who is going to speak first and what each person is going to talk about, right? This is not graded, as we saw on the video. This planning is not graded. So here, it doesn't really matter, how they're doing. You're not going to pay attention to this, but you give them a few minutes. And then it's stage 4B, where they make a formal, persuasive presentation that the option they have chosen is the best one, right? They are presenting this to the examiner, who, as I said, plays the role of the director of the school, the owner of the restaurant, or the client, etc., right? Finally, they will have to defend their decision by answering some questions. These questions have to probably be a little prepared, but also kind of like a little improvised, on the spot, because you have to adapt those questions to the final decision they make, which you don't really know which one is. But you can kind of like think about what questions you could ask for each of the options. This is something you have to think about also when you're preparing the test, right? Is this clear, the stages of the test? Okay, cool. So, the clearer the test, the clearer this is, the easier it will be the day of the actual exam. When you have to walk into that room, you will know exactly what it's going to happen. There will be no surprises whatsoever, or very little surprises. Very few surprises. Because you will know exactly, what they're going to say, because the instructions are always the same. you know, and your brain is gonna be, okay, I know this, I've been here before. No reason to be nervous. Now, be prepared to take the exam with a person you don't know at all, a complete stranger. If you're lucky enough, you may take the exam with one of these people that you have been studying with for so long, but it may be a complete stranger. And that stranger may not be prepared for the exam as well as you. They may have no idea what's going on, or maybe they just thought that it was enough to just speak good English and go and take the exam without really finding out more about it. So maybe that's where you need to take a little bit of control. If they're speaking too much, you have to make sure that you are heard too. You cannot let them take over, right? And if they're not speaking at all, you have to try to, get them to talk. You have, as you see, interaction is key, right? So the more you practice, the better. And this test, this assignment is going to be part of that practice. Now, if we look at the instructions you have to redact, or the instructions are always the same, right? We have one situation, hiring a chef. These are the instructions you have to prepare to read to your test takers. You have to read the instructions, right? It says, the three of you, because there's going to be three, the three of you work for a popular restaurant. Your restaurant needs to hire a head chef for its new location. You are on the selection committee. 6 candidates, 2 per test taker, have made it to the final selection process. Each of you will be given descriptions of 2 of the 6 candidates. You will need to describe the 2 candidates you're given to the other members of the committee, so that you all know the 6 candidates. The goal is for you all to know about the 6 candidates, right? Examiner 2 is the general manager of the restaurant. There's always no person in that they have to present their decision to. Once they reach an agreement, the test takers will present this to their general manager. Now, these are the instructions. You will also have to create the prompts, and they have to look something like this, right? We have 2 for test taker number 1, 2 for test taker number 2, and 2 for test taker number 3, right? 6 different options. And if you pay attention, there is information, right? The following list provides some information about John Green. This is the information the test taker has to paraphrase and elaborate on. As you can see, these are not complete sentences. They have to transform this information into complete sentences using, hopefully, different words, right? And then elaborating on that. For example, John Green says, restaurant cook for 12 years. If you're going to present this, well, our first option is John Green. He has 12 years of experience, which is good for the restaurant, because we don't really want somebody that is not familiar with the way a restaurant works, something like that. You have to elaborate. Or he says, specializes in Italian cuisine, you say, hiring a chef. We have John Green. He also, it's basically an expert when it comes to Italian food, and as we all know, Italian food is really popular, and I think it would be convenient for a restaurant to hire him, etc., etc. So you have to elaborate, right? Pay attention that everything is good, right? And then the last one, it's always a negative point, right? Has violated food sanitation regulations. So you have to present that too, but you have to kind of like downplay it and, make it seem like it's not such a big deal and your option is still the best one, right? Same story with test taker number 2. They have Maria Milton, hotel cook for 8 years, blends Latin American flavors, has planned menus for hospitals, certified nutritionist, accommodates special orders, author of best-selling books, consistently exceeds budget, right? So in your prompts, you will have to create 2 options for each of the test takers, 6 options in total, and each of the options should have a list like this, and should have a negative at the end. The last one should be a negative point, right? It's always like that. For example, the third test taker, Jesse Smith, steakhouse cook for 13 years, focuses on traditional American cooking, experience cooking for large gatherings, good customer relations, skilled baker, won 2 cooking competitions, but changes jobs frequently, right? You'll have to present this information, paraphrasing it, and you'll have to elaborate on it. Remember that you are trying to convince the other 2 members of the committee that your options are the best ones, right? Now, if it happens that you end up deciding on an option that is not yours, that's fine. It's not a competition. It's not like, oh, if they don't choose my option, I'm gonna lose points. No, you did your best. You were very convincing, but the other 2 people didn't buckle. Eventually, you have to reach an agreement, right? Time is ticking, and you have to reach an agreement. You may have to concede. Okay. Now, it can be, 6 different people, or it can be maybe six different, I don't know, a technology upgrade, right? It says, once again, the same instructions, right? The 3 of you are high school administrators, in this case, not restaurant managers, but high school administrators. You need to decide which kind of technology upgrade would be best for a public high school. You are on the selection committee. 6 technology upgrades have made it to the final selection process. Each of you will be given descriptions of the 6 technology upgrades. You will need to describe the 2 technology upgrades you're given to the other members of the committee, so that you all know the 6 technology upgrades. The goal is for you all to know about the 6 technology upgrades. The examiner too will be the high school principal, always a person of higher, the one kind of like making the final decision, right? That's it. Okay. And once again, you have test taker number 1 with laptops and language lab, test taker number 2 with computer lab and video cameras, and test taker number 3 are projectors and e-readers. And if you pay attention one more time, there's going to be a list of good things about this thing. Easy access to online information. Each student gets a laptop, wide variety of educational software, costs $600 per device, which is really cheap. Need replacing every 5 years, which is good. Already familiar to most students, but they may disrupt classes. When it comes to, I don't know, the computer lab, very helpful for group projects, fast and powerful computers. Teachers can easily demonstrate technology, one-time cost of $50,000, useful for many years, tech super available, but limited availability, right? So those are the prompts and the instructions you are supposed to redact and create. Now, has anybody already discussed with their group what they may do, the situation they may present to the test takers? Anyone? I would like you to take a few minutes and discuss with your group, your group of 3 or your WhatsApp group, the different options. In the example we have seen, hiring a chef or choosing a technology upgrade. What other situations could be convenient or possible in the case of the ACT exam? All right, think about it for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to ask a few people what they have come up. Ask you to ask some creativity from you, but remember, Yesterday, for example, somebody asked me if the topic could be very controversial. That's not the idea, because the ACP, it's never going to ask you to discuss, I don't think, the legalization of marijuana or something like that. You know, nothing that controversial, nothing that has to do with religion or politics or any sort of thing that is too controversial, right? Um, it's going to be always it's going to be some sort of decision on who to hire, what to buy, you know, something like that, or where to go, what to buy, who to hire, you know. That's basically a very mild decision, if you want to. In my particular case, you know, it was the case was that our school had received a grant of a few $1,000s, and we had to decide what to do with the money. The options were kind of like a geology lab or a computer lab, vegetable garden, and something else. And that was it, you know. Yes, keep it mild, you know, but do give your test takers a list of advantages and one disadvantage for each of the options, right? I'm gonna share this material with you guys I'm gonna write the links. I'm gonna post the links in the Google platform so you have a model to follow, a model for, you know, the scoring, a model for the prompts, a model for the instructions. So you can just kind of like adapt it or change it, modify it a little bit, and then have your own material, right? Then which you in turn can actually keep and later use with your own students when they ask you about the ECP and what they need to do. Or you can, you know, when you're teaching advanced cycles, you can use the ECP model for kind of like for a for a oral exam, right? Or eventually you may have, who knows, you know, to give private lessons to somebody that's preparing him or herself for the ACP, and you will have the material you have created, right? Of course, you know, now you have to get familiar with the language that is used to evaluate people, right? In this case, we're gonna read this performance, and you have to tell me if this person is ready, not ready, kind of ready for the ACP exam, right? It says test taker number 1 provides coherent explanations without prompting on all topics. He gives recommendations supported with explanations, such as in stage 2, when he is describing the language. Example, if someone is explaining to study abroad or just travel abroad or maybe just a gap year, it's a really good point. Overall, he is able to justify his position and elaborate. Communication breakdowns are rare. Using a wide variety of basic and complex grammatical structures, test taker 1 explains his opinions in a direct and streamlined way. He also uses a range of vocabulary accurately. Example, teachers can easily demonstrate technology. The cost is considerably high. Test taker 1 demonstrates fluent and articulate delivery in his rates of speech with a few pauses. He often uses prosodic features to add meaning, such as emphasizing the intonation of certain words when challenging the other test takers on their decision to choose the computer lab rather than the language lab. The fact that you guys settled for this, not the language lab, maybe Juan, you want to say something about that? You know, like those, you know, that intonation. So just based on this report, is this person ready to take the ACP exam? No, you choose everything, Susie. You choose the the 2 people you work with, and you also get in touch with another group of 3. And you tell them, hey guys, do you have a group already to do the exam with? No. Well, can you do it with us? Do you want to do it with us? Sure, why not? All right. But of course, you should, the sooner the better, because otherwise you're going to have a harder time finding people, right? I have calculated there should be 18 groups of 3, which means there's going to be, you know, 9 pairs. Should work perfectly if everybody in my list participates, right? So, well, I digress. Is this person ready to take the ECP according to this report? Yes, no, maybe. Write it in the chat room. You can say yes, no, maybe, right? Is this person ready for the ECP speaking test? Classmates, this person is well prepared to take the ACP speaking section. Okay, one more. Let's look at this person right here. It says, test taker 2 is able to adequately explain and elaborate without prompting on concrete and abstract topics. However, she at times relies on the written prompt, such as in stage 2, when explaining her options. Example, now video cameras, students can learn how to make films. It costs 300 per video camera. It can encourage creative thinking. Teachers can motivate learners, but some functions of the camera are complex. And in stage 4, when presenting to examiner 2. While some incorrect collocations may lead to vagueness, example, that provides a good contact with technology, with a good quality. Computers are good for many years, so you don't have to stay by computers to maintain the computer lab. Test taker 2 often uses a variety of complex grammatical structures in a moderate range of vocabulary effectively. Test taker 2 is often fluent and articulate during the test and requires minimal listener effort. However, her fluency declines with more challenging speech events, such as in stage 3, when given reasons for her choice. I think computer labs good to initiate technology upgrade on school because they are easily to demonstrate like nowadays. So is this person ready for the ACP? Seems pretty obvious that this test taker is adequately prepared to take the ACP speaking section. Adequately prepared. You would say no, she needs more practice. No, she's adequately prepared, which means this person is probably going to get a 3 in all sections, maybe a 4, which is still a passing grade. Remember that the ACP calls for a 65%, and out of 15, what is 65%, right? What do you need? You would need like 3 points here, like maybe 3. If you get 3, you passed, right? That's more than 65%. Now, should she practice? Probably, right? Because the more you practice, the better chances you have to pass the test, in all sections. So this person is adequately prepared, but is she well prepared? No. So now you're gonna practice this. You're gonna determine how two test takers are doing, right? Remember that we're gonna have, so prepare a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and elaborate something like this, right? We're gonna have two different people. So in this case, right, we're gonna have, this, there, and you're gonna have two other people that are not Stephanos nor David, right? And you have to see what score you're gonna give these two people, right? So please take a minute and prepare your scoring sheet. it should look something like this, more or less. Remember also to take notes, to justify the score. You have to write down and try to focus on the positive things, the things that the test takers are doing well. Do not focus only on what they're doing incorrectly, right? Focus on what they're doing well. And same goes for your students, always look for the positive things on your students, what they're doing well, what they have learned, where they're growing, and then help them with the things they need help with. Now, Vilma, if you're missing one person for your group of 3, remember you can contact the other group as well, right? Now, in this group, there are supposed to be 28 people, which means a group of you may have to contact the other group, to form a group of 3. So you can post. Remember, you can use the board of the Google Classroom if you want to look for if you need a partner and you want to get it from the other group, right? Okay, where are we? Yes. So you have your scoring sheet ready, right? And now we're gonna watch a little video, and this time is with 2 ladies, right? Right here. I'm gonna post a few of these videos so you can watch the different videos and see that sometimes there are differences in the administration of the test, right? So you should be aware of those subtle differences between one center and the other. Okay, let's see. Give me just a minute. Okay, and here we are. Okay, here we go. So take some notes, and then you will, we'll watch it for about 15 to 20 minutes, different stages, as many stages as we can, and then you'll have a little group discussion, and you'll give me your grades for these 2 people, okay? Here we go.
Take a seat, please. Hello. One of you can sit there and the other one there. Thank you very much. Okay, may I have your papers, please? Yes. You need these 2? Yes, I need these 2 and these 2. That paper is for you to take notes if you want, okay? All right, so my name is Alexandra. This is my colleague, Michael, right? And you are?
My name is Rena.
Okay.
And I'm Vasiliki.
All right, very good. Okay, so welcome to the test. This test consists of 5 short stages that last about 5 minutes each. As the test progresses, I'll explain each stage and what you need to do. For stage 1, let's spend a few minutes getting to know one another. As I said, my name is Alexandra, and I now know that you're Rena and you're Vasiliki. So, do you study? Do you work?
Shall I go first?
Yes.
Okay. Please. Yes, I have been working for many years at a shipping company.
Okay.
As a secretary in the administrative department.
Okay, that's nice. And yourself, Vasiliki?
Yes. I work in a marketing company. I'm not the accounting at the account department, that we're taking about a lot of companies that want to advertise, and we're taking their accounts and we're promoting their services or products.
Okay, that's nice too.
Yes, it's nice.
Yeah, it sounds very good. So you both work for a company, like I guess you work from 9 to 5?
More or less,
More
yes.
or less, sometimes even longer than that, but
Yes.
more or less, yes, it's on
Okay.
an 8-hour basis.
Okay. And what you do in your free time? Like yourself, Seliki, what you do in your free time?
I like very much to go to the cinema when I have free time, and also I like cycling. Yes.
That's nice.
Yes. So
And you
I'm
cycle
trying.
where?
So, I'm living at Theseo, at the center of Athens, but there is a lot of space around that I can cycle there.
Okay.
So I'm trying to do.
You're
whatever
lucky
I
to
can,
live
yes.
there. Yeah, I think that's one of the best spots in Athens, really.
Yes, and like
Okay. All right. And yourself, Rena, right?
Yes.
And what you do in your free time?
My very limited free time. Usually, what I like to do best is to take cooking lessons, which I do not do very often, but more every month or so. I take a few days of cooking lessons at with a chef.
Interesting. With a chef? That's
Yes,
very
with a
interesting. Well, I envy your friends and your family who eat your food.
We can never, prepare the food as we do it at the lab with, at the chef's kitchen. But when we have free time, then we can show what we have learned.
All right. Okay, that's nice. So you're studying English as part of your, is it a requirement for your work?
Definite requirement. Yes. It was one of the prerequisites that we get that I got the job anyway.
So English is very important.
It's
Yes.
very essential.
It's essential because we, as marketing company, we have some international companies too, so we have to be very well. We have to know the language very well in order to communicate and to see what people are thinking.
All right.
So it's essential. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I was wondering, if you had a chance to study English in the summer and go to another country to do it, like to go to the States, for example, would that be something you would consider? Like take a course in another country?
During summer, you mean?
During the summer,
That would be very nice. Yeah.
That would be nice.
I would
for you,
love
like-
that.
Yes, I think that it's really essential to be at in a country that all in an English language country, because it helps very much to understand the language better and to speak the language better also. So I think it's a very good idea.
It would be nice because I think also I agree, and it would be nice because you get to meet people of other cultures and to actually see the Western civilization. And for instance, I haven't been to the States, and that's something that I would like to do. Apart from seeing it in the films or listening, learning about it from somebody who has been there. But it's different when you actually experience it yourself in the same country.
Absolutely.
That would be very interesting to see.
Okay. All right. And you are on a committee to choose a summer language school for your students in Boston, USA. So your students are going to Boston, USA.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So each of you will be given descriptions of 2 of the 4 schools. Okay. You will need to summarize the information about the 2 options you were given to the other candidate, right? So that you will both know the 4 finalists. Your goal is for both of you to know what the 4 options are. Okay? So here I have 2 language schools for you, Rena, and here I have 2 language schools for you, Vasiluki.
Okay.
You do not need to memorize this information. You'll be able to keep the sheet. We won't take it away. You can make notes on the paper if you want. Take about 2 minutes to read through the information and do not look at each other's sheets. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so you have 2 minutes to...
So we have to
read through.
to actually present it to the other candidate.
Yep. Okay.
Both of them.
Yes, both of them.
think so.
Remember to try to use your own words to summarize the information. Do not just read the list of features. Also, you need to listen to your partner while she's summarizing her information, because after hearing the summary, you will need to give your recommendation of the best option from your partner's two options. Okay? Are there any questions?
No.
Okay. Who would like to start?
Okay. I can start.
Okay.
Okay. So we have two schools here. First school is York Language School, which employs very well experienced teachers and offers a very flexible program schedule for the classes. The transportation is really good. It's located near bus and train routes that can take the students to the places they want and come back to the school. It's equipped with a state-of-the-art language lab, very high technology lab with apparently cutting-edge computers. On the weekends, it organizes excursions that are free of charge, so our students can see many places around the school and have a good time. Also, it emphasizes on special conversation courses, and this can help the students acquire better fluency with their English, their spoken English. And this would be a very good idea for them to practice the language orally. The only drawback, as I see it with this school, is that it has many students per class, over 25 students, and this is rather cramped for one class, as I see it. Now, the second school, Fort Helen Language School, has, I think, something really good. It only has native speaker teachers, and this would be beneficial to the students because they will have the opportunity to listen to the language as native speakers use it, the accent that will help them a lot. And has a very well organized program of courses. What is very good with this school is that it's near to a beach, so even between classes our students can go and have a swim. That would be very nice. The school also offers certificates for each course that the students take, so they can use it in the future, with their schools in Greece, or to prove that they have done these courses. It has a very well stocked library with many books that they can read. There is an emphasis on listening and speaking, both listening and speaking, in their classes, but unfortunately there are no excursions organized during the weekends, so I don't know about that. That's about it with these two schools.
Okay, let me tell you about these two schools that I have here. The first one is.
Could you give a brief recommendation first?
About the schools that I have had?
Yes.
Okay. I think that maybe the second one, Fort Helen.
Fort Helen.
Yes, I would maybe I would go there, or I would decide for the students to go there, because as you told me, I think that the emphasis that is given to the listening and the speaking sections is very good, because someone that wants to go to a summer school in order to you know, to expand his English skills, it's those things are very important for doing so.
Okay.
And I think that also the socializing that maybe the students have with when they go to the beach with other students or other students from other cultures is also well forthcoming. It's very well organized. So I would choose that. Okay, I have two other schools here. It's the Kings Hill, first of all, which has a very highly qualified teachers. The good thing is that the classes, they have small classes with maximum 8 students. One of the things is that it's very positive. It's near to the center of the town, so they can go around, or they have a good transportation and access to the college, to that school. It has a very good and expanded multimedia library. So you can imagine that there's a lot of things that someone can find to the library for their courses or their assignments or everything. And one thing is that the course book of these classes is included to the fees, the total fees, in order to attend this school. And if someone also is dissatisfied from the program and the schedule, he can take his money or her money back. Maybe, yes, there's a refund for that. And maybe the only negative thing about this school is that its fees are really expensive. Course fees are expensive. The other school is Boston Language School. The maximum number of the students in the class are 15 here. It's also located near the shopping center, so it's downtown, so they have access to many things, the students. The teachers that are employed to that school they have at least 2 years of experience. It is a very good school in order to take some examination preparation courses. So it is something that it gives a lot of emphasis on that. And also motivates students. The students there, I can imagine that they can take initiatives to do things beyond just reading and giving some assignments. And we have to take into account that there are some complaints about the amount of work that the students have during their classes there.
Too much homework.
Yes, too much homework. Okay, more or less, I think that I completed my presentation.
So, as I see it, I would prefer the first one, Kings Hill, because of the small number of students per class. It's only 8, if I noted well, right? And the possibility of a refund for the fees. And even if it is expensive, I think offers so much, because the teachers are they're highly qualified, whereas with Boston they only had 2 years experience. So I think Kings Hill has more benefits for our students.
Okay, you've had a chance to look over the
Okay, well, because of time constrictions, we're gonna take a look at just those 2 first parts of the test, right? I want you to look at your notes and give them a score, for the first 2 parts. I know it is it is um, um, it is supposed to be like the first 3 stages, but let's do it for the first 2, right? Test taker 1 would be the lady sitting closer to the camera. So everybody agrees on that. Test taker 1, the lady closer to the camera, the one with the striped dress. And test taker number 2, it's gonna be the lady with glasses and the necklace and the white tank top, okay? So take a couple of minutes to give each of the ladies a grade, on each of the sections, which would be here. Don't forget, test taker number 1 is the lady that was sitting closer to the camera, which I think her name was Rena. I'm guessing it's spelled like this. I really don't know. And the other lady, I really didn't catch her name. Sorry. Right. So think about it. 4 stages, 1 and 2, which is what we saw. Right. The introduction and explaining and recommending. What would be your score for each of the ladies? Think about it for a minute. And see a higher score, right? Mostly because if you pay attention, she not only limited herself to mentioning or paraphrasing the characteristics and advantages of each of the schools, but she also gave you a reason why that was a good thing. So for example, when she said, the school is near the beach, and that's good because our students could go and have a swim, between classes. So she elaborates on the information she's given, and that's a big plus. It's not something you should try to do on your exam, right? So does everybody agree that Rena got a higher score than the test taker 2? Anybody would like to comment their observations? All right, what do you think they did well? And what do you think they could have done better? Anyone?
Teacher, yeah?
Tell us.
Well, about the test taker 2, I will say that she was extremely nervous and she get a lot of pauses to start thinking what to say. And some of the ideas she wanted to express, I think, were misunderstood or were not completely understood.
Okay, right. Yes, I think she had some problems. She hesitated. She didn't really use a wide variety of vocabulary or grammar structures to express her opinions. And I think she limited herself to just reading the list of advantages from the prompt, right? Since you are going to create the prompt, you will be able to tell if your test takers are just reading it, if they're paraphrasing it, if they're elaborating on it, right? And yes, it may be that nerves may have played a role in it. So that's why the more familiar you're with the test, the less nervous you will be that day, I believe, right? Because you will be you will already know what's going to happen. No surprises there. Okay, I'm going to post the links to the material we have seen today, so you have kind of like a model to use to redact your instructions and to create your prompts, and to also kind of like make some scoring sheets and pay attention to the language that is used when feedback is given. And also I will post this video and some other ones that I may find, so you have a chance to observe different people taking the same exam, right? Under different circumstances, and maybe you'll see that sometimes the examiners do things a little bit differently. I think if you compare Stefanos and David's test to this one, there's some subtle differences, right? Okay, but that's all for today. Do you have any questions? If you do, please stick around. If you don't have any questions, you are free to go. Thank you very much for dropping by.